Hey, welcome to the Glen Gauer podcast, the best podcast you'll listen to all day. Sponsored by Mission Blueprint. Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Dennis, welcome back, man. How you been?
It's been a long road, and I finally made it back. It's been awesome. Life is good today.
The Long and Winding Road.
The Long and Winding
By Paul
Road.
McCartney and the Beatles, right?
But in South Dakota, all the roads are straight. You know, we're like little grated cheese out here.
Yes, we're Romans. We're not British.
That's right.
The Roman Road.
Do our listeners know that story?
I don't know.
Do you know why our roads are as wide as they are?
I do. Tell us.
Okay, so our roads are a certain width because it goes all the way back to the Roman Empire and how wide they made their standard carts and then the horses that they had to pull those carts.
That's right.
And that's why our cars are the size they are and the shape they are and the roads are the width the way they are because it's all based on a Roman standard.
All roads lead to
Rome.
Literally.
Right.
Crazy world we're in. Speaking of the crazy world, have you ever seen the movie called Room with Brie Larson?
The Room. No, I have not.
Yeah, it came out in 2015.
Okay.
So
That
basically,
was a tumultuous time in my life. My twins would have been about a year old. Yeah.
it would have been a good time for you to watch movies, though.
Yeah, I was trying to sleep when I could.
Yeah. That's what I mean, putting kids to sleep. Let's throw a movie on. Well, Room is a story based on Joseph Fritzl, who locked his daughter in his basement for over 20 years.
What?
And fathered many kids with his own daughter.
What?
See, these people are sick, right? Disgusting.
And Hollywood made a movie about this?
Not about him specifically, but about the context of it. It's a gentleman who abducted a young woman, had a baby with her, and the movie Room now. And she was, I don't know, in the movie, I think with him 7 years before she got out.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I sat down to watch a fun movie after a long day, and she said, "What about Room?" I said, "Throw it on." And I'm like, what?
What did you pick?
What did I pick? It was a very difficult movie to watch, to say the least. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend you watch the movie, but there is a certain truth that the movie does portray. It made me think, of course, of human trafficking. And why in the world aren't we talking about it? Not me and you, but our culture doesn't really talk much about human trafficking.
No.
We talk about these other things that are going on, and human trafficking is like... do you remember when you were a kid? Did you guys ever in the Protestant world or growing up in your home talk about whispers or whispering?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The whispering in the community.
Yeah. Human trafficking is a little like that. You know, people whisper about it, but you know something's wrong, but we don't talk about it. And I thought, you know what, Dennis, it's time for you and I to actually discuss human trafficking and how bad it really is.
But this plays right off of our 4-part series we just wrapped up on evil.
That's right.
You can take the most innocent person and give them a bad circumstance beyond their control and open that door for possession and obsession. And where does all of that stem from but that feed and that need to scratch that evil itch? Because what is really at the root of human trafficking? What's the purpose of it?
Tell me, what do you think?
I think it's sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, abuse.
Well, it's not only that, though. It's sex, which is a type of forced labor, but it's also forced labor.
True.
But yeah, you're right.
But it's feeding the wrong side of the rainbow.
So disgusting. But we're going to talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. I want to promote awareness that this is going on right in front of us. I've did some reading, some research, some suggest that all the major sports are in on it somehow. Hey, did you ever hear about that story? What's that young lady? She was in the WNBA, and this could get me in big trouble.
Is this the one that's stuck in Russia?
No, that's
Okay.
a different. That's Brittany Griner.
Okay.
This woman was trafficked, and there's a certain really, really big basketball star who trafficked her, took all her money, and tried to kill
NBA
her.
or WNBA?
She was in the WNBA. He was in the NBA. And I'm a little scared to talk out loud about who this might be.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
That's fine.
But this was in the this was in the news, in the media.
Wow.
I was going to say this was in the modern media, but this is in the media. And she said it, and you could go to YouTube. I'm not sure if it's there anymore. I've heard that they clean their...
They scrub their plates a little.
Yeah, they scrub a little bit, so you might not be able to find it. Anyway, that was a very, very interesting story that
Recent
came
story?
out within the last 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about this one.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, go research it. She even said he tried to kill her. Wow. So I don't know. I do think the big sports are involved. I have heard that. Why is the Super Bowl such a big event? Human trafficking.
Oh.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have any evidence of that. This is all speculation, not on my part, by others.
Hey, what do we talked about with this podcast? Being open-minded.
That's right. And so I'm going to dive into that a little bit and check it out to see if there's any truth to it. But I do want to talk about human trafficking. Don't look at your notes. I gave you some notes for this podcast, but you might already know about how many people. When I say people, it's really children, right? Mm-hmm. It's children. How many children go missing every day in America?
I didn't read this in the notes.
Awesome. That's not awesome, but good. I'm glad you didn't.
Okay.
What's your best guess?
Number of children
that go missing every day in America?
Well, there's a lot of milk cartons out there. You know, we used to put kids' pictures on the back of milk cartons.
Yeah, haven't we talked about this?
I think so.
I think we have.
I never understood as a kid when I was having milk why they would have a picture of a kid on the back of a milk carton that I might know.
Well, he went missing.
Yeah, it went missing.
And we're thinking, wow, one kid went missing.
Right.
Holy smokes. It's bad.
I'm going to guess probably somewhere in the thousands, probably 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 kids.
Yeah, you're right on it. About 2160 go missing every day. That's every 40 seconds. A child gets snatched.
Oh, sure, 24 hours a day. And that's just in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I think 2.2 million per year for sure get trafficked. Wow. In the world.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So in the United States alone, 840,000 are reported missing, according to the FBI.
Oh, wow. So not even just local police. This is national.
Yeah, national problem.
This isn't a kid who ran away from Volga, went over to stay with his buddy in Brookings, and the cops looked into it and found him and took him home. Like, this is, our kids are gone, and we've escalated that this is a trafficking issue.
Yeah, and I wonder about Natalie Holloway. I just wonder about her. Do you remember that story?
I don't.
Years ago. Oh, it's got to be 10 years ago. I think her name was Natalie Holloway. I might have that last name wrong. I wasn't prepared to talk about her, but she went missing and the world was trying to find her, and then they found her body. And I think it was somewhere, Aruba, maybe.
What?
Again, I'll have to do some research on that. It's been so long.
All right. Put the link in the description below.
But she went missing, and it could be she was trafficked. It could be. Yeah. I don't know. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you're probably thinking you're speculating a lot. I am. But I also have researched some of the stuff, and that's what people are believing to be true.
Right, but this is our world. Like, it's all speculation. Nobody lives it until you get people who actually come out from that lifestyle and tell you what the world is like.
Right. They're not going to tell you what they're doing.
No.
But what's not speculative is the FBI. 840,000 are reported missing every day.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Every year. Every year.
Yeah.
840,000.
In America.
Wow.
Again, we've talked about this. One person on one milk carton, you're going, wow, that's horrible. 8 people, whoa, that's worse. 80, wow, 80 people go missing. Mm-hmm. Go to 800, 8,000, 80,000. You think 80,000 go missing? 840,000 is unfathomable. Where are they going? I mean, this is my big question is, how do you, that's the state of South Dakota.
Right. All disappeared.
Every year.
Yes. Gone.
Where do they go? Where are people taking these?
I don't know.
Children.
So can I bring this home?
Of course.
Okay. So in the state of South Dakota, who is the most at-risk population in our state?
At risk as far as?
Of all the city, states, reservations, places that people would abduct or try to traffic people through or out of, who's the most at risk? There's actually a news story from Keloland in 2021.
Tell me.
The Native Americans.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Why
them?
It's the reservation. It's the least policed. It's on the borders, North Dakota, Nebraska, Flanders to Minnesota. Like, it's just an at-risk demographic within our state. 8% of the human trafficking in South Dakota is part of that national average.
Wow.
Native American children that are trafficked make up 40% of our state's average or statistic. So of all the people that are trafficked out of our state, 40% of them are from the reservations.
Wow. That's horrible.
Well, that's just bringing home, like, this is a problem for us locally and regionally, just within our own state. And there's a really great article about a gal, 2 different gals that came forward out of their stories in their 40s and their 30s, talking about what happened. And the one gal came from being a foster child, and her dad would farm her out to pay the rent.
These people are sick.
Oh, the one that was 40, she went riding with her dad in the truck. She was over the road truck driver. And when they would stop at the truck stop, if she was hungry, she had to go to different trucks and get money. And she got pregnant at 14. And her parents told her that when she had that baby, they were feeding it to the pigs. I mean, this is all in the news story.
Oh, yeah.
So this is regional. This is just the stuff that somebody decided to shine a little bit of a flashlight on. So I'm glad we're talking about this today.
Yeah, again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why people aren't really talking about this, because it's bad. Because in my mind, when I ask the question, how many children go missing every day in America, I'd say no more than 800 people. And I'm way off. Every 40 seconds, somebody disappears.
That's not worth ignoring.
So I just want to say this to you.
Mm-hmm.
My intention was to do this one podcast on human trafficking. And as I just sit here and discuss this with you, I think we're going to have to go deeper on this, because this is one of the problems.
Well,
we can't take care of our kids. What are we doing?
Well, this is a huge root in evil. I mean, there's a lot of evil behind this.
So last week there was an article in the Dakota Scout, and there was a meeting in Sioux Falls. Becky Rasmussen, I don't know her. I just read this 20 minutes before we're shooting this. She's the executive director of Call to Freedom. And so there was a meeting of it's really an informative meeting about trafficking, but then how do we take care of it? And I sent you the article, but she talks about a story of Matt Kozaria. And he and his wife were watching a video of someone who's abducted in Haiti. And they couldn't believe this was going on.
I read that as Haiti. Like Haiti, South Dakota.
Well, we're a bunch of South Dakota boys. I had to think, did I say it right?
No, you're right.
Haiti?
Right,
okay,
Haiti.
It is Haiti. And and then she went on to report, and this is staggering. I can't even believe the stat. Trafficking has grown from a $32 billion black market business to $150 billion today.
Inflation.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where are the 840,000 kids going? Well, something's going on here with this whole human trafficking thing. I didn't know it was just this bad. Go ahead.
No, this I'm just as shocked as you are. This is a huge rise in not only the revenue side of the industry, but like you and I are probably pretty naive on this.
I'm very naive on this.
What are 840,000 people doing? I mean, we talked about some labor, we talked about some sex trafficking, but where did they go? Where are they? Where are they making money on this deal? Is it a buying, selling, trading, like the old go back to Roman times as a slave market, and we're just buying and selling slaves back and forth? That
could be. I mean, I think you have North Korea, you have a few other countries who are big into modern slavery.
Russia.
Russia. So but America, we have a different kind of slavery here, right? So I don't know. I did some reading a couple of years ago that some of the trafficking issues were because of organ harvesting. So it perpetuates your life. So if you know you might need a certain, like in your family line, your pancreas goes out.
You need a kidney or you need a liver.
Yeah, so you find someone who matches you and you just keep them until you need them.
But how do you, you would have to have somebody in a hospital that was phenotyping and blood typing. And
it's complicated. It sounds like a crazy conspiracy, but ladies and gentlemen, you have to explain, where do the 840,000 kids go?
And if somebody's got money, what's a little bit of money to live a little longer.
So, I don't want to slip too far from trafficking, but I remembered this story that shocked me years ago. Did you ever see the TV show Seventh Heaven?
Heck yeah. Everybody saw Seventh Heaven.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a good show.
It was such a dating market for that Camden family. They were all dating, and it was really a fun show to watch.
It was.
So I really, I loved all the characters. I liked the dad. His name was Eric Camden, played by Stephen Collins. So this struck me years ago, and as I think about it now, I just wonder how bad Hollywood and those associated with Hollywood really are. He confessed, according to TMZ, they had an audio version of him confessing to child molestation several times. He confessed, and then it was in the news that he struggled with that, and then I thought, what?
Almost like a pedophile.
Yeah, he's like America's dad, right? He's a pastor and helping people, but in real life, he's a pedophile. How do you work that out in your mind?
But where does evil want to perpetuate? At its highest point, where it has the most influence. I mean, it seems perfect. You got this guy who, on all exterior appearances, looks perfect, and an icon and a role model. And let's make him the ugliest of all the ducklings. All
right, so I don't know if this is true with Stephen Collins. I don't know if it's true with Hollywood people, but part of where the 840,000 kids might be going is to people like these guys who know that they can have any kid they want. I suppose they've got the money, they have the means to do it.
Buy your happiness.
And so they get caught, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I've been struggling with that, but I've worked it out now, and we give them a pass somehow, except for Bill Cosby.
Right.
He never got a pass.
But even in that aspect, is there bigger pieces moving?
Yeah.
Because there has to be multiple people involved. Eric Camden wasn't going out and doing the trafficking. It's kind of like I love, you remember Walk the Line, Johnny Cash?
Yeah, great movie.
Okay. So Johnny Cash never got out of the car to get his drugs. Somebody always brought them to him. In the movie, that's how they portrayed it.
Don't they call them handlers?
Yeah. I mean, they've got to have handlers. There's got to be people in the background that are part of the problem. Why not cut the string that's feeding the evil? But I don't know. These are things above my pay grade.
Yeah, me too. So let's get into some of the human trafficking stats. Let's see here. Do I have... This is from safehorizon.org, I believe. I'll include the link. Sorry if I screwed that up, but these stats are staggering.
Yep, this is from Safe Horizon.
Yeah.
Statistics and facts from Safe Horizon. The 24.9 million.
Yeah, go ahead and read that first one.
So 24.9 million people are victims of forced labor.
This is worldwide.
Yep, this is stat from 2017. 16 million people are trafficked for forced labor in the private economy.
What does that mean? Explain that to our listeners.
So private economy includes private individuals. So
like me.
Like
if I wanted to.
Yep, just as a day laborer.
Put the money down and...
Yep. Groups or companies in all sectors except for the commercial sex industry.
Why? Tell me about that. What does that mean?
I think that's porn industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where there's paid, there's labor, it's a legit business.
Okay.
But we're talking about you get closer to the southern border and you have immigrants that have illegally come across the border and you manipulate them because you know they're illegal and you've got a job to do, but you use them all day and then you don't pay them. So you made a bunch of money off their labor.
Hey, do you know what percentage of those immigrants are trafficked? There's got to be a certain percent that are.
I don't know. I don't know.
We'll have to check that out.
That
too.
would be a really interesting statistic to know, because there was just a recent movie that we talked about with Liam Neeson where he owned a ranch along the Texas border, and they paid a coyote to get this mom and this daughter across the state line or the border. And then the cartel killed the mom, and so the little boy was trying to get to Chicago with Liam Neeson, and talks about that aspect of how much they pay and how arduous that journey is to get to the border just to get away from the cartel and the trafficking in Mexico. So that's an interesting story too.
I have heard a percent, but I'm not going to say it. I want to do some more research before I just tell you. But if it's true, it's staggering.
Yeah, blow our mind. 4.8 million people are trafficked for forced sexual exploitation, and 4.1 million people are trafficked for forced labor and state-imposed forced labor.
Are we talking about like North Korea or China? Or is that what
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then it is estimated that 20.9 million people are trafficked worldwide. Again, that's across international waters, across country lines. Mexico to United States to Canada, Ukraine back to Russia. Women and girls are...
Hold on here. So how do they get... Yeah, how do kids get from America to China so quickly? I mean, they throw them on planes and just...
False documents, passports, I'm sure. Just get them on the plane and go. And
they must have quite a system, honestly.
So you know that we use the Flight Tracker 24 app.
Who uses it?
We do. Because
you mean you use it?
My wife and I, because my brother-in-law is a private pilot.
You can follow him?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Flight Tracker 24.
Can you follow Air Force One?
No, can't follow Air Force One, but you can follow any flight that's got a flight plan, domestic or international, with the FAA, and we can see planes taking off. Doesn't matter what size, doesn't matter which elevation they fly at. But my brother-in-law's a private pilot, so he flies like the Kardashians, Arnold Schwarzenegger, things like that. He
does not.
Yeah. That's his job. He is the Uber of the sky.
You've got to be kidding.
No.
Good for him.
But case in point, there are no questions asked service. They pull on the tarmac. They have their G8 plane. They're fueled up. There's a pilot, a co-pilot, and a stewardess, just one. And sometimes they don't even have a stewardess. Sometimes it's just the pilot and the co-pilot. And they're in there doing their thing. They close their door. The people get on, and they take off. And they may fly for 12 hours.
No kidding.
Yep. And land in Aruba. The people depart the plane. He pulls up to the fuel tank. He gets out of his plane. His plane goes through inspection, make sure it's all okay. He goes to the Four Seasons, sleeps overnight, gets up the next morning, and flies somebody else somewhere else in the world. That's his job.
That sounds like a fun job.
It is, but we can track him. But you know how many flights there are every single day?
Thousands.
Hundreds and thousands of flights in and out of all of our countries. And like you said, it wouldn't be hard to do. It's like you taking a taxi or a limo, but the limo driver never got out to see who and how many people got in and out of the limo. He just stayed in the car and then left. I'm not saying that my brother-in-law knows anything about it, but knowing what I know, you certainly could move 4 or 5 kids and look like a family who's just having a hard time. You're fighting and kids aren't being good and slapping them around and getting them into the airplane. And away you go. You aren't going to fly commercial with 10 kids who are being trafficked.
Yeah.
And you got enough money, you can do anything. And go anywhere.
Crazy.
Interesting stat. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by human trafficking, accounting for 71% of all victims. But why not? Why not? Men can stay where they're at, boys can stay where they're at, and labor and work. You know, it's really easy to get Constanzuela to be your housekeeper or sexual toy or whatever, like you said with this movie room where you lock somebody up and They're your house pet, and no one would ever know. Especially if you got them terrified and scared to death. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to feed you to the wolves.
Let's go to the sex trafficking statistics. Read that first one. Do you have that?
I do. 3.8 million adults are trafficked for forced sexual exploitation, and 1.0 million children are trafficked for commercial sex exploitation. That's crazy.
Adults, yeah. I suspect 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, right at that,
just turned that
right
age,
at the age,
I
or
suspect. I don't know. That would be an interesting stat to see.
It's interesting that we're talking about this because the whole. Have you ever seen the Taken series by Liam Neeson?
I saw that first movie.
Yeah, I mean
It's too intense, man.
But that's human trafficking, sexual exploitation.
Yeah.
His daughter gets abducted when she's in Europe. That's the whole thing. I mean, this starts to make more and more sense. Again, the evil tells you what they're going to do while they're doing it. And we just go, oh, entertainment. Yay, that was fun. That was a good movie. We should go buy that and rent that. Own more of it.
Well, I'm surprised at myself that I didn't know more about this. And if you're listening and you're going, whoa, I didn't know. I didn't either. But as you think about the last 20 or 30 years of media and paying a little bit of attention, you'll start to recall, oh, that's what that movie was about. Oh, that makes more sense now. This is a big issue, and I cannot believe.
Hiding in plain sight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're doing it right in plain sight. We're going to tell the world all about all the stuff we're doing, but we're going to make it entertaining.
That's right.
Isn't that just like the purest form of evil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was listening to a video. I think it was Lara Logan, and I think I talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning because she was talking about, and I wonder how much of this is child sacrifice, if any of it. I just wonder because you have to move 840,000 kids in America alone. How many of them are being killed? Because, ladies and gentlemen, go watch Lara Logan. She's been on CBS. I think she was on Fox. She was on, I think, CNN or MSNBC. She's talking about this stuff. And I first heard it from her not very long ago, but I didn't know it was this bad. But she was talking about child sacrifice. And then my ears went up as someone who studied theology, because you see child sacrifice and trafficking and abusing people. You see that on the other side of Christianity. You see that in Satanism. And so what she's really saying is she's adding all the dots up.
Yep.
Right? This is a satanic ritual.
That has a root in it. Absolutely. Sexual exploitation. I mean, we've seen that in different Hollywood productions like Tom Hanks in Angels and Demons, and what is that first one? The one about the Catholic Church. The Da Vinci Code.
I haven't seen that one either.
They talk about the dark cults of using sexual exploitation because it's more based in the pagan religion of celebration of sexual interaction and the preservation of the procreation of the species type thing. But it talks about how. Have you seen the movie? Okay, so it was a huge debate when it first came out because it said that Jesus,
we're on the Da Vinci Code, right?
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code. It's of course a story, but it says that Jesus is married.
Yeah, I heard
Mary
that.
Magdalene,
Yeah.
and they had a baby, and that Jesus' bloodline is still alive today as a rose line. That's just an interesting story. But anyhow, it's aside, because in that movie they talk about some of the sacrifices as well that the evil has done.
Yeah, Mel Gibson made a movie about the Aztecs. Was it the Aztecs?
Tell me the movie.
I can't think of the movie, but he came out with a movie right after The Passion of the Christ, a few years after it. And I think it was one of his first roles back, but he made a movie about, I think it was the Aztecs. But anyway, there was child sacrifice all over. It was terrible. And it was a bloody mess. And then you start watching this, and I'm like, what? People do this? No, people are doing this.
Yeah.
They didn't just do that, but they're doing this today.
Yeah, this isn't a new thing.
Which, when you listen to Lara Logan, you're like, what? But the point Lara Logan said, because she was interviewing a guy who was in the high governments. I mean, way up at top. She wouldn't mention his name, but name some of the 3-letter agencies or worldwide agencies. The WP. He was in
WHO.
he was in the WHO. He was talking to all those guys, and it turns out, according to Lara Logan, who interviewed this guy, they're all Satan worshipers. Many of them are Satan worshipers. I shouldn't say they're all. I don't know, but many of them are Satan worshipers, and they're doing this satanic ritual of child sacrifice. And she said, why? Why would you do this? She said, you have to understand something. They want to make God hurt. And the best way to make God hurt the most, to really get at him, is kill his innocent kids. It's a whole mindset that I cannot grasp.
No.
It's really bizarre.
Very. That would be like me wanting to hurt you because
it hurts God.
It hurts God, but I mean, like, extreme personal. Like, what did God do to you that you want to hurt him so bad? Or is Satan still just mad about being kicked out of heaven? Like,
well, he's trying to increase his booty, and this is one way he does it. And I mean, you just think about the abortion issue and the medications they came up with in the last 30 years, the abortifacients. Mm-hmm. And it's a real clean abortion, right? There's nothing ever clean about it, but this is a clean way.
Yeah. Exculpability. Well, I just gave him a shot. I didn't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the RU486 pill came out, probably in the mid-90s?
I don't.
Yeah. The FDA approved it. In the trials, when the women first took it, many of them bled to death.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and they just brought the dosage back just a little bit so they wouldn't die. And women still died over the RU46. Yeah, it's a mess.
Our world is such a messed up place.
That's why we need
How did we turn out so good?
I'm not so sure I did. I think I'm a work in progress.
That's me too.
In many ways. So I want to talk about how are you, what are you doing to avoid your kids being taken? Now, I think in South Dakota where we live, we're much, much safer, but we're still not safe.
No.
I don't buy that we're safe.
No, there was just a story this last month about a 15-year-old young man at home by himself, just off Highway 14.
This is in my community, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, just a few miles west of Volga.
Right.
And a gentleman pulled in the yard and entered himself into the house. And this kid had enough wherewithal and enough spunk and enough stuff about him that he beat him back out of the house with his cell phone charger.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. And
that's how he got him out. I didn't know that part.
Got him out of the house. But that was right here in South Dakota a month ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's another situation. A gentleman in a white truck was, I would say, poaching, looking for kids. And somebody, I don't know if they caught him, but they called the cops on him. And I remember this distinctly because I was actually almost to Brookings, and this white truck went by me I was going 40. He must have been going 65. And I thought, whoa, he's in a hurry. He's trying to get away. This was not that long ago.
Wow. And that was here in Volga or Brookings?
He was in Volga.
Okay.
But I was already almost in Brookings. I was taking the curve, the bend in.
Yep.
And he came right by me, and I'm like, I almost called the cops, which I would normally not do, and I should have.
Yeah.
I should have called the cops on him, but I don't know.
Should listen to that still quiet voice.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you do? What steps do you take to avoid? I just want to maybe talk about a few of these.
Okay, go for it.
So, traffickers use a variety of methods to control their victims, including they lure their victims with false promises of economic opportunity. You will get rich, and I will help you do that. Dennis, do you want to be a multimillionaire? Because I can help you do that.
Absolutely. Sign me up.
Okay, come over to my place and we'll start working on this. All right, buddy? And I'm going to take good care of you. For now, here's $100. I want you to go buy, right? This is the start of it. It's they begin to, what is the word, groom you, right? They lure you in slowly, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're stuck.
Yes.
There was a story of a Facebook ad, and I got that from the article from the meeting in Sioux Falls. This young teenage girl wanted to make money, so she put a Facebook ad cleaning houses. Well, a single gentleman called her and said, yeah, I need my house cleaned. Well,
Innocent enough.
Innocent enough. Turns out after he gained her trust, he took her.
No kidding. Here in Sioux Falls.
I don't know exactly where it was, but that story came up at that meeting in Sioux Falls last week.
Wow.
Just a Facebook ad.
Wow.
So parents and all adults, we have to be vigilant here. This is serious. You can't just let your kids, like even in my small town, I try not to let any of my kids play in the front by themselves. Now, I mean, it does happen. You can't watch them 24/7, but you can do your best.
Yep.
And so I always tell them to go in twos, play in twos, and try to stay in the backyard, which isn't always possible.
But we taught our kids, because we live on a pretty wild and crazy road too. But we taught our kids that anytime a strange car pulls in, they have to just come back to the house, run back to the house, and let an adult know. Go away from the road.
Right.
Because they can run pretty fast.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Again, where do kids what's the number one place kids get picked up for trafficking? Right in their front yard. So we have to be careful.
Can you help us get directions? We're looking for these people. Here, look. Do you know these people? I got their picture right here. Gone.
Oh yeah. That's the Smith family. Hey, they're over there on Johnson Avenue. Yeah, it's there's a blue. Yeah, and then all of a sudden,
Can you show us? You want to come with us and get us there?
that's the thing. I mean, that's being vigilant. Yeah. What's your name again? Well, I'm okay. Okay, so yeah, let me give them a call, and I know who they are. Yeah, you want to stop. That's what you do. You get in the middle.
Yep, got to be there.
Traffickers use this method. They withhold identification, work authorization, or travel documents. You were kind of talking about that earlier, weren't you?
Yeah, the visas and passports and things like that, especially internationally. That's a way bigger way of trapping people. Okay.
Another way is they demand repayment for a real or alleged debt. What does that mean?
So if I'm in a real bind. I got to get me out of jail.
Yeah.
I got to post a bond, $2,000. All right. Yep, you're right. You showed up for court, but you know what? I spotted you $2,000. You got to come over here. You got to do this stuff for me because I helped you out, and now you got to help me out.
Here's another one. They use threatening words or violence, right?
That's common.
That's very common. Yeah. I don't know if I want to say this on camera either, but there was a former president that I heard the state troopers would say, he told me to do this or I'll kill you. That's on the record anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
I won't get into that. But yeah, if you don't listen to me, you know what? My fists fly pretty fast. I mean, you could get really, really hurt here, young girl. And yeah, it's terrible. Monitoring and surveillance activities. What does that one mean?
Monitor and surveillance. I imagine that's probably just a lot of our new modern stuff with being able to tail track. One of the things they show on TikTok is young girls will have these tiles, these locator tiles that you're supposed to put on your...
Apple came out with some kind of tracking mechanism. If you lose your this or that, and you can just put this... What is it called?
Yeah, like there. I don't know if it's an Apple tile.
I don't know either, but
I know they're called tiles. You
about.
can get them at Amazon.
Are they little GPS?
Yep, what they are, just little locators. And so you can put them on your keys. You can put them on your kid's coat. You can put them in a backpack. So if your kid leaves them at a park, oh, there it is. Johnny's coat's over there. We'll go get it. But there's multiple reports of people pulling those tiles out of their gas tanks or out of their...
Oh, sure.
Where somebody's tracking and stalking and surveilling them, well, the least conspicuous place that you're going to look for a tracking device is in the fuel tank.
Mm-hmm.
And they're yay big, so they slide right in.
Wow.
People taping them up underneath the fenders of cars. You get into that, it goes into another realm with people who have insecurities where spouses will track each other because, they're cheating on me. I'm gonna catch them in the act. Type thing.
Yeah.
Surveillance is way more easier now.
Well, I'm concerned about this FaceTime stuff, Face ID on the phones. The reason is because I saw this video of this couple, and they were telling the story how when their kids are playing games, these ads would come up and call this number or click here for this or that. And the kid took, I think it was an iPad he was on, and to his mom and said, "What is this?" And she said, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing?" "I'm playing this game," he said. "I'm playing this game and this came up." And so she said, "Well, put that down and let's talk to your dad." So the dad came home and the dad said, "Pull that game out again and I want you to play it." So he put the game back on, and again, it was a trafficking thing.
No,
it was a trafficking. It was a trafficking ad. Oh yeah, and then he had a picture of himself or an adult, and he put that over top the camera, and those ads did not come back up. Mm-hmm. So they knew the kid was playing it.
Yep.
So this is some of the surveillance that I'm really, really, really concerned about.
Well, AI, artificial intelligence, is not going to be what we think it is. It is not going to be what we know in Hollywood or the movies.
What does that mean?
Artificial intelligence.
I know AI, but what do you mean by that?
It's computers already can learn so much about our facial tics, our eye movements, our subconscious and conscious routine, and all you need is somebody who can tap into that data to manipulate you.
Yeah, Elon Musk talked about this. He said it's not going to take much longer where we won't be able to control AI, which I don't understand that whole how artificial intelligence works. I understand what algorithms are and all this, but how it all works together. He said if the rate it's going so fast, it'll be uncontrollable in a short amount of time.
Oh, the exponential learning of it will outpace the human's ability to think.
And that sounds like a movie that I watched years ago called The Matrix.
Mm-hmm. Could be. Could be.
Here's the last category. Traffickers use a variety of coercive methods to control their victims by paying very little or not paying at all for work. What is that one? I don't understand that one, to be honest with you.
That's your slave labor.
Oh, just that obvious.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're going to come to a job. I'm going to give you $20 an hour. I get to the end of the day and be like, well, here's $50. But I already worked. Well, that's all I'm giving you. See ya. Mm-hmm. Harder to do in a community our size.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
If you're in Dallas, if you're in Houston, you're in San Diego, LA, you got people who are homeless. Hey, come help me on this job site today. I give you $100 to come help today. Okay, I'll come help. Well, they go break their back for 8 hours in the heat. Maybe the boss buys them a sandwich and then gives them $50.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Drives away, never see him again.
So as
it's just hard. It's a hard thing if you aren't living in a community of believers and have a community of people around you to continue to network and run through, and have them be your check and double check to who's part of your community. You're on the outside. You're in the rough of society, and it's easier to be poached. It's easier to be discredited. It's easier to just be a blip on somebody's radar and off if there isn't someone there holding that person accountable. You know, we talk about these children that are trafficked. Where are the parents? Where are the people who brought them into this world and are supposed to care about them? A lot of them, maybe already have their own issues, drugs, alcohol, working. By the time they're aware that there's a problem, they're already gone. Like this kid being trafficked through the game. I mean, that grooming can take 5 years. Plant that seed and grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it. You talk about these stings that they do online, with men and women talking to underage or minors. And then on the other end, it ends up being a police officer, and they go to a hotel and bing. Like, if the police can do it that easy, there's people way out there, way smarter, way thinking 10 steps ahead that's poaching and pulling these people for trafficking.
I know somebody in that industry who does that, works with the cops to pick up the adults, the scummy adults who do these things. And he said to me, I can't even talk about, not only professionally, but I would not even tell you some of the stuff we see. You would not sleep at night.
The things they talk about.
The things they talk about. The things they find out.
Yeah.
The videotapes, the digital recordings of things they're doing. He said you would not sleep at night. How sick this is. And so I probably will title this podcast, These People Are Sick. I mean, they are sick.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
But they got there somehow. They
there
were
somehow.
not born that way.
Hey, did you know?
I didn't. Please tell me.
In England, we're running a little longer than I wanted to, but I just cannot believe what
To be continued.
how bad this really is. But there was a report in England that every person who ended up in the Satanic Church were sexually abused.
Stands to reason.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just logical.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised when I saw that for the first time, but it makes perfect sense.
The more you and I have learned about this last 6 months, the more that's like a really convenient gateway to get somebody to fall away from Christ.
So a couple things here. There's some great things happening. I found ourrescue.org. That's ourrescue.org. And I'll put a link into the details as well, so you can go check them out. But check them out. They're really helping kids. They rescue kids, and then they help them get back into normalcy, if that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So check them out. There's lots of hope. There's good people doing great stuff.
There's someone here locally, right here in Brookings, South Dakota.
Tell me about that.
Pam and Greg Stern.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to them with your permission. We'll see if we can get them to come and talk.
I think we need to talk to them.
Yeah.
Bring them on the podcast, whether here in studio or just call them, have them call in. But more needs to be discussed with this. But here's my final question for you. And I got to stop and think about this too. But what can parents do? What should parents be really thinking about as far as protecting their kids from being picked up?
I think you got to keep them in a community. I think you have to have neighbors that care, neighbors that are vigilant, have them involved in groups and with people, whether it's church, if it's community events like soccer and things like that, where, hey, we're all watching out for each other's kids. We've got each other's backs, and we're watching to make sure that a white truck isn't driving around trying to poach kids. Like we're taking care of each other as a community of not only parents, but even tighten that up a little better, but a community of Christian believers that, hey, this kind of evil just isn't allowed in our community. Because there's people, and this, within our community, with our church families that are struggling with porn addiction, and this could be that slippery slope, and just don't want our kids to fall victim to that.
Well, that's a great answer. I'm not sure that there's a better answer, but that's a great answer. That's an external answer too. I mean, I think it starts with certainly having good neighbors, living in a good community. But sometimes that's not possible either right away. But what are some of the internal things? So that's an external answer, but like inside the home.
Tell me, what do you think?
Well, I'm asking you.
Well, I was going to get your thoughts.
I think you should turn the damn computer off and the damn TVs off.
What if I have an LG?
And turn that damn thing off too.
Okay.
And I say damn on purpose because they are damning us.
Mm-hmm.
And limit them, schedule them. Mm-hmm. In the old days, we used to watch a show together as a family. Now parents are putting computers these laptops, you can take them anywhere, and they have data packages. And a relative of mine was concerned that their kid was caught up in porn. And they talked to me about it, and I said, well, how did he get it? Well, I bought him an iPad. Oh, well, yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to sound cynical or what's the word? I don't want to sound like
hypocrite.
Yeah, or know-it-all, but duh. Yeah. I would never give my kids an iPad ever. And I have computers protected, and I figured out how to do that free, and it's not hard at all. It's so simple.
A lot of your routers, you can do it through there with your parental controls. You can govern the content and what level of things come in.
And kids are savvy, though. They find ways around. I mean, parents were like dinosaurs. We, as a general rule, we don't know like the kids do. I'm not even on Instagram. I'm still in the Facebook club, and I can't stand Facebook.
Dude, it's dying.
I heard it's almost dead.
It is.
Meta. It's Meta now, isn't it?
Meta's almost dead.
He lost a lot of money.
Well, but now this is why it's getting not a fun place to be, because now it's just ads. But anyhow, that's another conversation.
I would say, schedule your TV time, schedule your computer time. Never put a computer in a room where they can shut the door. Always be in the open, and figure out a way to turn that stuff off. And I'm also concerned about Wi-Fi, not because of what you can download on your computer. I'm also concerned about the signal. I mean, this is another area that I want to get into someday. But schedule your Wi-Fi. There's got to be a way to turn your Wi-Fi on and turn it off.
It's called a Christmas timer.
So we'll have to talk about that more, because so then your Wi-Fi is off. So if your kids are home, they're not getting into it because the Wi-Fi is off. And so that's another way. But the media, ladies and gentlemen, why in the world are you buying your kid a new iPhone 14? They're only 6 years old. They don't need an iPhone.
Well, because parents can't give up their iPhone. Their kids need to watch their little cartoons and their shows on their little device, because mom and dad have to be into their device.
And I understand that. I get it. I'm addicted like anybody else.
Of course.
But schedule your iPhone time. I was talking to Father Jeff last week, but we were talking in a separate conversation. He said, I check my email once a day, and I don't go back to it.
You want a fun stat?
Sure.
So the average employee working in an office, guess how many times they check their email a day?
This is not going to be good. How many times a day?
How many times an hour?
An hour?
Yeah. If you're working at Daktronics, you're working at Larson's, you're in the executive office, you got an email because you're working. How many times an hour are you checking your email?
10. That's a lot.
30.
No way.
National average.
How can you work at a job and check your own email?
Because that's your job. You got to be.
I could never do that.
Since 2020, because of the remote and everything.
I don't care.
The average employee is checking their email 30 times.
Are you talking about their personal email?
Work email, personal. I mean, because a lot of it all flows into the same thing.
Yeah, again, what do you do about that? You can't. I have all my inbox, sure,
right,
but I don't
30
look at
30 times an hour.
An hour?
That's once every 2 minutes.
Email?
Once every 2 minutes.
Who in the world is email? Who's so important they're going to email you?
But that's people, again, just like our Facebook notifications.
That's bizarre.
Right?
30 times an hour.
30 times an hour.
So what's 3 times 8? 24. That's 240 times a day. And wow.
Yeah. So if you gave God that much time, wouldn't that be awesome?
We need to get real jobs.
We do.
Crazy. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, watch out for your kids. Keep your eye on them.
Protect your home.
Protect your home. And if you're shoveling your kids off to daycare, reconsider. I know this is a whole...
But know who your daycare is.
Know who the provider is. Do your research on them.
Drop in surprise visits.
Surprise visits are a great idea. You should do that anyway. There's crazy things happening in some of these daycares.
You have no idea what they're being groomed for.
But know where your kids are at. You don't have to put a GPS on them, but know where they're at. I would not put a GPS on my kid because other people can track.
That's right.
And I think that's what these phones are doing. They're tracking us everywhere we go.
That's right.
Hey, real quick question before we get off the air. Cars. What year did they start tracking vehicles?
Well, that's a tricky thing because... There was
that's my soldier guy.
There was a time when we started getting navigation in our vehicles. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, there was already certain devices like GPS units, handheld. Garmin was one that you started off that you could put into your car, but you registered your car and your driver's license plate into that. And that's where they probably started. And I would say that was mid-90s, late 2000s, or early 2000s.
So they've been tracking us able to track us a long time.
Well, you remember that story, maybe you don't, from the gal from Redfield back in 97, 98. She got lost in a snowstorm And the only way they found her was because her cell phone triangulated off of 3 different cell phone towers, and that was the way they found her. So, I mean, you go that far back. I mean, that's even using cell phones when we had bag phones back in 96, 95.
Bag phones. Did you ever have a bag
Oh,
phone?
heck yeah.
You did not.
Absolutely.
A bag phone?
I used to work for a cell phone. I can't even tell you the name of the company in Madison. And of course, I had to have the product to sell the product.
He was cool.
I had a bag phone. And
how did they work?
oh, you plug it into your cigarette lighter. It was the size of a suitcase. It had a little keypad on the top. It would ring.
But what tower were they using?
Oh, I think there was like 5 in the state.
Oh.
But I mean, that was, back when
were they satellite based?
No, they were still based on cell phone towers, but they used repeaters. Like on the old telephone towers, they just used a repeater. Boosted out a signal.
What was it like talking on a bag phone?
Just like talking on a regular phone. Had a cord, the whole 9 yards. My parents thought I was nuts. It was great.
That is so cool.
Thought I was so swank. Yeah.
It is.
I was very uptown.
That's awesome.
Baby of the family.
I want a bag phone.
And have all the tools.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, keep your eye on your kids. Keep praying. What did Casey Kasem always say? Keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Amen.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening. May God strengthen the bars of your gates. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for listening to the Glen Gauer podcast, sponsored by Mission Blueprint. Mission Blueprint is a nonprofit ministry started by Glen and Jamie to sanctify the family. Our income is donation-based, and we need your help. Please support us financially by going to www.mission-blueprint.org and be a part of our financial team. Thank you, and may God strengthen the bars of your gate.